Apologize for the slight delay. Calling to order the Placerville Planning Commission regular meeting for Tuesday, May 19th, 2026. Would you all please join me in reciting the Please call the roll.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Stratton?
Here.
Chair Keeney?
Here.
Commissioner Sylvester is absent, and Commissioner Lepper is also absent.
We have an interesting agenda tonight, so let's get down to work. We have no closed session reports, and the consent calendar consists of approving the minutes of the regular Planning Commission meeting of May 5th, 2026. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by general consent. Unless any commissioner requests a roll call vote, or unless any member of the commission staff or audience wishes to remove an item for discussion. And since we do not have a quorum of those who were in attendance on the May 5th meeting, Ms. Stratton was absent that day, we will postpone approving, we'll pull that item and approve those minutes at a later date. Hopefully our next meeting will have a quorum of those who had been present. Any comment or any comments about the minutes, Ms. Kendrick?
No, but your next regularly scheduled meeting would be June 16th, and right now I only have Vice Chair Leppers not being able to attend.
Okay, June 16th. Thank you for that. So we pulled that item from the consent calendar. We'll move on to number 6, which is items of interest to the public and public comment on non-agenda items. This portion of the meeting is reserved for people wishing to address the commission on any matter not on the agenda but within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. State law prohibits the commission from taking action on these items not listed on the agenda except by special action under specified circumstances. Would anyone in the audience care to address the commission on an item that's not on the agenda? All right, we'll move on to number 7, which is written communications on non-agenda items. I don't believe we have anything that's on we have a few things that were handed to us, but they're all agenda items. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Tonight we don't have any presentations or workshops, so we'll move on to 9, environmental assessments and public hearings. First is 9.1, Historic Design Review, HDR 2602. This is at 3148 Sacramento Street. Consideration of a historic design review application within the single-family residential historic district zone for modifications to an existing single-family residence. And I'll turn this over to you, Ms. Kendrick, for the staff report, please.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Planning Commission. This evening, the Commission is considering Historic Design Review Application HDR 26-02 for the property located at 3148 Sacramento Street. The application proposes replacement of 3 deteriorated windows and replacement of the deteriorated exterior siding on this 1940s single-family residence. This project was previously presented to the Planning Commission in March of 2020 and was tabled at that time. The applicant has since refined the proposal in response to the Commissioner's prior direction and revised the submittal that is before you tonight. As I mentioned, the applicant will be proposing to replace windows. The application includes the 3 windows, one at the south elevation overlooking the garden, the west, which is street visible, and the north, which is the rear elevation. The existing windows are divided light picture windows. The applicant is proposing to replace this with awning-style crank-operated windows, consistent with the contractor's quote included in the staff report. The proposed units will be installed with the existing window openings and will remain established window dimensions. I just want to point out the awning style, there's no awning proposed. It's the style, which is kind of like the crank style, the windows open. But there is no awning proposed. It's just awning style windows. And so that's like B1 in several of the window quotes. For the siding, the project applicant proposes a two-material approach based on visibility from the public right-of-way. Street visible elevations, primarily the south front and west elevations, will be clad in James Hardie fiber cement horizontal lap siding, Hardie plank smooth. Non-visible elevations will be clad in board and batten siding, which is not visible from the public street. This approach maintains the horizontal lap appearance where it contributes to the character of the historic area, while allowing the applicant to use board and batten on secondary elevations. The dimensions of the siding are documented on the Home Depot receipt included in the application materials, confirming the board width and ensuring compatibility with the home's existing appearance. The residence is a 1940 craftsman-influenced ranch, minimal traditional style structure, and could be considered a non-contributor to the historic district. Staff has evaluated the proposal for consistency with the Secretary of Interior Standards and the city's development guide. The existing windows and siding exhibit deterioration that warrants replacement. The proposed awning-style windows will remain within the existing openings and are compatible with the home scale and character. The proposed siding treatment preserves the horizontal lap appearance on street visible elevations, maintaining compatibility with the surrounding historic district. This project is consistent with the general plan, our zoning ordinance, and is categorically exempt from CEQA. Staff recommends approval of HDR 2602, subject to the conditions of approval in Attachment A, including the requirement that Hardie planked horizontal lap siding shall be installed on all street visible elevations consistent with the existing horizontal appearance. Board and batten siding will be limited to non-visible elevations as proposed, and the proposed awning-style windows will be installed within the existing window openings as shown in the submitted plans. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and we also have the applicant in the audience.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to see you back here. I was on the commission when this came before us in 2020. I'm glad to see that our concerns were taken to heart. Some good changes were made to the proposal. I have some concerns about this. First off, I want to make sure that we're very clear on where things are going to be replaced. Looking at the attached, I'm looking at attachment E, historical district map, and if that is, now this does not have our compass points on it, but as I remember, as I get oriented, as I look at this, it is the south and the east sides that are visible from Highway 49 or Sacramento Street, and it would then, I don't know that the west side is visible from 49. I did not drive by the structure. The north side would not be visible from 49. So I think we need, maybe at some point we got our compass points confused. And the staff report, I apologize, I'm jumping back and forth between these two documents, but okay, here we are on the project description. Picture window on the south side overlooking the garden. Picture window on the west side. Okay, picture on the west side facing the street, visible to the public. So that, I'm looking at page 2 of the staff report under project description 1. First bullet point, picture window on the south. Okay, that makes sense to me. Picture on the west side facing the street. That is also visible. So all three. to my thinking, it is more the south and the east sides of the structure that are visible to the street. So what, can you help me with that? And then the north side, actually not visible to the public from Highway 49. And then as I look at the attachment B provided, I suppose these are photos provided by the applicant. This shows on this attachment B, okay. At the top of attachment B, I'm looking at a picture of the house. I see the divided light window, and then there's a corner with two sliders, and then it looks like the front door. That's the south side, visible to the public. So there's one divided light. Then as I go down to the next photo in this attachment B, that says that it's west, and as you know, I have driven by this in the past, but I think that that's actually the east side. Staff, can you provide any clarification, or should I just wait to address the applicant since she's here tonight?
I'll let the applicant
Okay.
address that because we were.
You're not that familiar with the site either. Okay, that's fine. Well, let's straighten that out here shortly. I just wanted to bring those concerns up so that you can get prepared to answer my questions, if nothing else. And then, as you explained in your staff report, this you addressed a concern that the commission had last time this was brought up, is that there will be the horizontal. Again, we need to make sure we have our cardinal points correct, but essentially just saying that the sides of the house that are visible from Highway 49, the lap siding style, the horizontal style, will be duplicated. And then on the non-visible side, they prefer to use a board and batten vertical style. I understand that's a little less expensive, takes a little less material. So that is their proposal, is that on visible sides, it'll be horizontal, and then on non-visible from Highway 49, board and batten. Because that's something that was not clear from the staff report. I saw that in the attachments, the applicant is, getting two different sides, types of hardy plank. They have a bid for that. So I just wanted to make sure we understand what this is going to look like when the work is all done.
I'll actually defer that to the applicant.
Okay. My last concern on the staff report. Do we know what the existing material is made of?
I do not.
Okay, we just
For
know
the
that it is
applicant.
okay. The reason that's important is that, I've been on this commission for a long time and have dealt with a lot of these historic district projects. We really, we don't want to talk about like for like, because that's, first off, that's not what's absolutely required. And second, well, like for like means that you would be replacing. So, for instance, the reason I asked what's the existing, is it cedar plank? Well, then when we say like for like, that means cedar plank for cedar plank. What is being proposed here is the hardy plank, which is a cementitious fiberboard, less, flammable. And, we've dealt with that before in this commission. It's totally acceptable and actually a great upgrade for our houses in this high fire hazard severity zone that we find ourselves in. So I just ask that staff refrained from using that term like for like. In the SOI standards, they use the term compatible substitute, and that's what I want us to consistently use. I think that gets the point across and also conveys to the public that in certain situations, like for like isn't absolutely required. A compatible substitute is what we're seeking, and that's what we're looking for. Actually, for both elements of this project. We're not going for like, we're going for compatible substitutes that are actually an improvement, energy efficiency and fire resistant. So those are my comments on the staff report, and I'll address Ms. Volker when she comes up to present the project to us. I'll turn it over to the other commissioners. Do you have any questions about the staff report at this time?
I do, because I'm trying to recall that this property came up before us before, I don't remember when, but it was raised, this very property. I'm not sure I saw the history about it coming before us before. What was that?
It was essentially the same project, Kirk. I was on the commission. You were on the 2020. Were you on the commission? So it was essentially what she's
No idea.
proposing. But at that time, there was the divided light windows and her desire to do board and batten style, which is the vertical style as opposed to the existing horizontal. So essentially, we worked with staff, and this was during COVID, so we're doing the remote meetings, but conveyed to the applicant that in the historic district, we had these stricter requirements, and so it was sent back to the applicant, and she did not return with any modifications to the proposal in 2020, and so in a March 2020 meeting, we tabled the item. So as far as the history with the commission, that's what's happened before, and that predates Ms. Kendrick's tenure with us.
Because as was discussed, at least off the record, I drive by it frequently and have for decades. I'm up at the very top. And I remember the color of the place being changed. It was a lighter color. It's now a gray. Do you know when that happened?
I do not, but staff can look into that.
And the windows in front facing Sacramento Street would remain the same in appearance?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's my questions.
You have any questions?
Similar to what's been already brought up, just wondering if we know what the planned colors are? Okay. Is it the tan?
Well, we'll have the
yeah.
applicant come up and address that in a minute.
That was my only question, other than what you guys
No
already
questions for
addressed.
staff?
No.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Ms. Volker, please come up to the podium, and this is your opportunity to present your proposal to us. Thank you so much for coming back and coming down here to take the time to answer our questions.
Thank you.
And the microphone is on. Could you?
Good? Okay. So the house was originally, I bought the house probably 20 years ago before my husband passed. We were supposed to downsize because he had a sickness that would not allow us to be on our property in Pleasant Valley. So we bought it with the intention of moving in, and instead, he decided that this would be my house when he passed. So it is. It makes me happy to be in downtown Placerville. Originally, looking at the house, it was originally green. Somebody painted it white. You can see when the chip's off, and it's in the back of the house. It's very evident. And then a gray-green. So I proposed putting it back to a gray-green, speaking of colors. It's going to look identical to what it looks like now, except for underneath the garage, there is T111 that doesn't look good, so that'll be improved as well, like for like. So I don't know what else I can do to appease or to meet the requirements of the what is it, environmental, what am I in?
It's the historic district
Historic
review.
district, yeah, so, and I'm a little
Could
nervous.
you repeat that? I didn't hear that. The
I
garage
said I
is
don't,
a
I said
problem?
I don't think that there's going to be any changes that will make it not conform to the way it's looking right now. So it'll look the same, only it'll be new and not rotty.
So your previous application, you were considering a stone facade, so you've decided not to do that?
Not unless it's a doable thing. I just thought I'd only tackle this right now.
Okay, that's all
I
that's
know the
before us
stone was
tonight.
either in or out, and I wanted to do the sure thing.
And these, the photographs in your application, those are fairly recent?
Yes.
So I appreciate you rehabbing this house. Definitely those windows need help, and I know that they're expensive, but that is the distinctive look for this structure, is those divided light windows. So let's talk about cardinal points. I want to make sure that when we issue this, we're all very clear that, on the, and perhaps we should just say visible from Highway 49, but I'm looking right now at this picture. I see a door downstairs below the carport.
Yeah.
And another door and a divided light window. And to my mind, that's facing east, and it says in handwriting, west, visible to the public.
It's wrong. You're correct.
So that is
It is
east.
west.
Okay,
No,
so
it's
we'll
east.
just make that.
West is ocean. Yeah, it's east.
West
sure.
is ocean,
East is mountain.
Okay, we're on the same, so that
are
is the
correct.
east side. So I think we can just clean that up in our conditions of approval. So we'll just make that change. So I just want to make sure I wasn't disoriented. And then the board and batten style. So I noticed in your quotes, so you have two different size hardy plank. So and also in our conditions of approval, we need to make sure that you're getting approximately the same width horizontal boards. So that's already what
They
you.
are exact.
Okay, so those, so the one type of hardy plank is to do the lap siding horizontal style, and then on the north side, you're going to go with the board and batten. So that's why you have the different size hardy plank, and it says
Yes.
something about board and batten, I think is in the description. So just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and then when the work gets underway, we get exactly what we're expecting. Okay, so further down in, I'm not sure which, this must be the fourth photo. It says, west alley not visible to the public, board and batten. Are we talking, that is the west side, not so the north and the west side, you're going to do board and batten?
South. I'm doing the south.
So visible from Highway 49 will be lap siding.
Yes.
East side, visible from Highway 49 will be lap siding. And then you're doing the other two sides in the board and batten because it's less expensive and those are not visible.
That's it.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're consistent and that our conditions of approval, it seems very simple at this time, but I want to make sure our conditions
No, I understand.
are accurate, especially since you've gone to all this work to come back to see us and do this. Okay, I think I have beaten this horse to death. So I'll turn it over to you two. Do you have questions for, and Volker, is that how you
Yes,
pronounce
it
it?
is
Volker.
correct.
Ms. Volker. Alyssa? Oh, Kirk, go ahead.
I think my first question is not directly related to your application, but to help give us some insight into how these guidelines are presented to applicants when they purchase a property. So when you bought your house, did the realtor or anyone else tell you?
Now, I believe we broached this subject the first time around. There's no point, it was a bank-owned sale. The agent that was listing the home had no idea. I had no idea. I would never have thought I was in historic review because it's just a plain old little house. It doesn't have any.
And what year did you buy the house? It was before 2020.
Yeah, I've had it for, I don't know, it's hard to say. Probably 19 years, 18, 19 years. So, and we did discuss that, and there's no indication in any time through an escrow. There's no checkpoint where the city or the title company or the county says this is an historic review. There's nothing written, nothing recorded, and I had no idea.
Okay, so you
Come
say
back
there's
to say, I'm complying now.
What you're telling us is it was a bank sale,
It was a,
meaning like foreclosure?
it was a foreclosure.
The other questions had to do with the paint. At some point, it's been changed to this darker gray, I believe it is.
It's like a green-gray, yeah.
Okay. When was it white?
Was white when I moved in.
Okay. Because the color of that house would have been white. Titanium white was used during that era. It's during the Depression. All the houses below you are white, and they're small. It's like the ADU units of the time because money was tight. And titanium white is cheap. You can get it everywhere, and it covers everything. So it was very popular. So when did it get changed from white to this modern gray?
Probably 15 years ago.
Pardon?
I painted it 15 years ago, about
Okay.
15 years ago.
But at this time, we don't specify color. Our development guide says that earth tones are what are, recommended.
Okay.
And the color you prefer is, I think did you say tan or?
It's a green-gray.
I'm sorry, gray?
It's called actually earth, soil.
Soil?
The name, it's
And it's-
green soil or something like that.
And it's a grayish, it's a lightish.
It's a gray-green, brown.
Gray-green. So
Yeah.
an earth tone,
Yeah.
but not dark.
No,
Okay. Okay. That sounds like that fits in our development guidelines.
So the windows that you're using would be double pane windows,
yes,
and it would still maintain the small sections, the dividers?
yes, they will. And the grids will be the same size, 1-inch grids. They won't be between the windows. It'll look just like a pane glass window. Took me a long time to find an engineer that would work with me on this, and the reason for what we're calling the awnings that aren't awnings, the weight of the window, the only way to sustain or hold the weight of the window was to do a divide there, just to make a different window down below, or he would have to have made them much smaller. And I wasn't for that. I bought the house for the windows. I
So
love the windows.
this awning that's described in the attachment B, so this is the quote that we see for the divided
Yeah.
light window. So the awning, it opens and closes?
Yeah, and it's the
No?
only way he could do it. He said, the only way you're going to get this size, I don't want windows that open and close, personally. But the engineer and the window company says this is the only way we can make it work.
Okay. So this isn't something, the awning isn't an element that's visible from the street. It's just, it's an
still
element
like a
of the
window.
window and functioning of the window.
Yeah.
Okay. I saw.
Awning is not a good word for a window. Yeah.
Well, we're not experts in this, and so we all get to deal with this like once or twice in our lifetimes, right? And
So I called the engineer just to verify that today before I touched it.
oh, thank you. I
Yeah,
didn't
he
know
said,
what
"No,
that meant.
It'll look exactly the same,
Okay, so
and it's not an
Perfect.
awning.
great. So we have the divided light windows. Any other?
I don't actually have any other questions that folks haven't brought up already, so thank you.
Okay. Is there anything else about the project that you'd like to present at this time?
Oh, I'd be happy to have my house looking good.
Because the strict rules here is that once we let you step down, we can't let you, no, I'm just joking. Because we have so many people here tonight. But no, thank you so much for
Yeah, I'm
coming down.
excited
And
to get it going and I've, in the interim, taken care of my mom for 6 years and upgraded my rental properties, and my house is the last to go. It needs it.
So now it's time for
My
this
turn.
structure.
Yeah, it's this
All
one,
right.
and this is the one that everybody sees. It's the most horrible thing.
Great, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Anyone in the audience like to speak on item 9.1? Okay, we'll close the public hearing portion and bring it back to the commission for possible action. this looks great. As I explained earlier, we've seen, Planning Commission of the city has seen this structure before, and it was our recommendation at that time to, go with the similar style. My concerns, let's see, if we jump over to attachment A, and at the top of it, attachment A, I would like, as I mentioned earlier, under the description, strike like for like and substitute the word, this is from the SOI, Secretary of the Interior Standards, SOI standards. The words are used are compatible substitute material. And that applies to both the windows and the siding. The term like-for-like occurs again under point number 1. I had some other comments, but now that I understand the different sizes of hardy plank in the application, I don't have any other concerns with the draft conditions of approval, or I don't have any other questions.
I guess mine is just for clarification. When you're looking at attachment B, which shows the house from the Sacramento Street side, but does show the side of the property, so just so people know what I'm looking at, it's this
And
illustration.
that would be the south side.
It says B, and it would be the south side. So this section to the right that faces the driveway, that would still be horizontal
Exactly.
wood.
That would be the lap
And
siding.
the board and batting would be on the south side. That's
No,
not-
it would be on the north side. What you're looking at right there is south side.
Correct. This is the south side because it faces up the hill,
So on the north side would be the board and batten.
which would not face the street.
Would-
It's not shown here, it's on the other side.
Not shown there. It is in, I do think we see it in attachment B, but we, as we all know, the city's interest is in the aesthetic from the street. So the north side,
was
the
just-
west sides aren't.
Just
aren't seen.
clarifying the picture so that I understood the connection. Thank you.
And I wonder, okay, perhaps we should clarify that in the conditions of approval, just because we got our orientation flipped in the, in attachment B and in the staff report. So perhaps a condition 8, just to clarify, lap siding, horizontal. Perhaps we should just say sides visible from Highway 489. And board and batten
If
on
you said,
remaining signs.
if you said south and east, that would cover it,
That would be correct, but perhaps we should just say visible
as invisible from.
from Highway 49, because that's our concern, and we're loosening our restriction for the non-visible sides, because it is less expensive to do the board and batten installation. Uses less material. So those are my concerns. As you consider that, I'd like to entertain a motion at this point, and we can take it under further discussion and make specific, or the motion could include those changes that I just mentioned.
I will move to approve HDR 2602 located at 3140 Street, Sacramento Street, based on the project information and findings included in the staff reports, with modifications mentioned regarding like for like, changing to compatible substitute materials, and subject to the recommended conditions of approval included in Attachment A of the staff report dated May 19th, 2026.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'm not going to second it.
Okay, I'll second that motion. Then let's discuss it further. I'd just think since East and West got confused in the prior materials, I'd like to straighten that out. Alyssa, how do you feel about adding an 8th condition of approval that the siding will be horizontal style, lap siding style on the sides visible from Highway 49?
That is fine with me. I did want to quickly clarify, I guess you mentioned that the garage might be somewhat different, but that's not really visible from 49 because it's hiding behind the neighbor's house. So I just want to make sure there's no issue with that.
So, and what would be the issue? Should we look at, I didn't,
The garage is on the west-facing side, however, it's hidden.
that's the east-facing side.
I'm sorry, yes. All over the place today.
Oh, but it doesn't have any siding on it right now.
No, but you said there were going to be some modifications to... Okay, that's fine.
Chair Keeney, if I may, during my presentation, I did include requirements that the hardy plank horizontal lap siding be installed on all street visible elevations consistent with the existing horizontal appearance. Board and batten siding shall be limited to the non-visible elevations as proposed, and the proposed awning-style windows shall be installed within the existing window openings as shown on the submitted plans.
Okay.
Yes,
And then because you have read that into the record, it now supersedes or is included just like the staff report was.
Well, in your motion, it would be conditions of approval as amended.
As amended.
Well, here's what I want to understand about the amendment. The reverse side of what I held up a moment ago, B, shows the side view that would be from the east side. So this is horizontal siding, is that correct?
And it will be replaced in that same manner.
Like for like?
No, not like for like at all, Kirk, as you well know. In fact, that would, that would make it a very flammable structure. We're trying to get away from that. And we're using the hardy plank. Okay. So clarifying that, that east elevation. So we have visible from Highway 49, and that's our condition, our amended conditions of approval. All right. So we've amended your motion. You've accepted those amendments. I will second, I guess I have to re-second that amended motion. All right. Any further questions? Okay. Please call the vote.
Commissioner Smith?
Abstain.
Commissioner Stratton?
Aye.
Chair Keeney?
Aye. So we have a 2-1 vote. The motion carries, and this action is, of course, subject to a 10-day appeal period, appeal to the City Council. However, it is a wonderful improvement, so I don't anticipate any concern in that regard. However, yeah, you might want to wait, 10 days before you actually sign the check. But again, I just can't thank you enough for taking a second look at that and bringing this back to commission. And I wish you best of luck on your project. All right. Let's see. Let me get set up for our next item, which is, oh, good, here I can jump over to the agenda. Item 9.2 is a general plan amendment, GPA 2604, and zone change for 2689 Coloma Street. Proposal to amend general plan use designation. I'll turn this over to you, Ms. Kendrick, for your comments.
Thank you, Chair Keeney and Commissioners. At this time, I would like to recommend that we continue this item without discussion due to a noticing issue. So that would be continuing it to our June 16th meeting. I do also want to add that we did receive a comment letter from Ms. Lishman. I did email that to you today, and then you have hard copies in front of you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Kirk?
I just wanted to ask you about the notice issue. What is the intent? Is it to get wider distribution of the information about the meeting?
No, so there was an issue with the surrounding property owner noticing, so we need to,
With who getting noticed? The
yeah. the-
property owners in the immediate area?
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Is anyone in the audience here to speak to item 9.2, the general plan amendment? Okay, I didn't. If you had come down here, we certainly would open it up to allow you to comment. And before we take, we do have to take an action to take a vote on that, right?
That is correct. So
Okay.
if we continue to a date certain, that takes care of the legal ad because this was legally advertised. It's a 20-day ad because of the type of applications, but we can go ahead and get the surrounding public notice out. So that does require an action and recommendation to continue to June 16th.
Okay, and I just, at this time, want to note that we did receive the letter from Kathy Lishman, and that will be included in the materials for the June 16th, so we can address her concerns at that time.
Absolutely.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that we acknowledge her effort to contact us. Can I have a motion to continue this item?
I'd move that we continue the item to the next available date that you described.
June 16th.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Please call the vote.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Stratton?
Aye.
Chair Keeney?
Aye. All right. We'll move on to 9.3. This is zoning ordinance amendment 2603, proposal to amend Title 10 zoning of the Placerville Municipal Code to establish minimum densities, modified development regulations for multifamily residential zones, and amend conditional use provisions for multifamily residential zones in compliance with the housing element. Ms. Kendrick, are you ready for your staff report?
I am. Thank you, Chair.
Take it away.
Commissioners. Item 9.3 is a zoning ordinance amendment 2603 implementing housing element program A-5. Tonight's item requests that the Planning Commission conduct a public hearing and consider forwarding a recommendation to the City Council to amend several sections of Title 10 related to multifamily residential zoning. These amendments establish minimum densities, modify minimum parcel areas, and update conditional use provisions in the R2, R3, R4, and R5 zones. As noted in the staff report, Housing Element Program A5 specifically commits the city to amending the zoning ordinance to establish minimum densities and modify minimum parcel areas in R2, R3, and R4 zones. Historically, these zones only listed maximum densities. The absence of a minimum density created a regulatory gap that allowed parcels designated for multifamily housing to be developed with single-family homes. This resulted in an underutilization of high-density land and reduced the city's ability to meet its RHNA obligations. HCD, which is a Housing and Community Development Department, issued a letter of inquiry to the city on December 3rd of 2025, requesting a status on our housing element programs that had not been implemented from the sixth cycle. Because the city originally committed to completing this program by October 2023, they're putting some pressure on us. We have till August 31st to complete several programs. So I think at your next meeting, you'll see the last of those coming through. But this would help fulfill that commitment. A summary of the proposed amendments includes the minimum density floors for multifamily zones. So R2, we would have a minimum of 4 dwelling units per acre. R3, 8 dwelling units per acre. R4, 12 units per acre. These values directly match the staff report. R2, 4 DUs per acre. Yep, so we went over that. Parcel adjustments. To ensure that new minimum densities are physically achievable on standard urban lots, the ordinance reduces the minimum parcel areas as follows. R3 from 6,000 square feet to 5,000 square feet. R4 from 6,000 square feet to 4,500 square feet. As stated in the staff report, this graduated approach creates a logical step transition that protects existing neighborhood character. The ordinance also removes outdated or subjective conditional uses. It eliminates single-family dwellings as a conditional use permit in all multifamily zones, which includes R2 through R5. It eliminates professional offices as a CUP in R2. It allows professional offices only as part of a mixed-use project in the R3, R4, and R5 zones. This aligns with the Housing Accountability Act requirement for objective standards. Staff recommends a finding of CEQA exemption based on Section 15061B3, the common sense exemption, and Section 15268 for ministerial projects. Staff report notes that the proposed zoning ordinance amendment does not authorize any specific physical construction and is mandated to comply with the SB 330's no not loss provisions. A legal notice was published in the Mountain Democrat on April 29th, meeting the 20-day requirement. No public comments were received as of the report preparation. So at this time, staff recommends that the Planning Commission conduct the public hearing, receive public input, and forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council to adopt Zoning Ordinance Amendment 2603, including establishing minimum densities in the R2, R3, and R4 zones, reducing minimum parcel areas in R3 and R4, removing single-family dwellings as a conditional use permit in all multifamily zones, and updating professional office provisions to require a mixed-use component. This amendment is required as part of the housing element and ensures compliance with state housing laws and removes regulatory barriers to multifamily housing. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. And I appreciate you bringing these up to current standards. I realize that you've been getting some angry mail from the state, and you're just bringing us into compliance with what obligations the city has already agreed to do as part of our housing element. So thank you very much for that hard work. And, I appreciate that this has the potential to kind of change the look of certain zones, areas in Placerville. But given our need for housing, it absolutely makes sense. And, I look forward to seeing what some of these projects actually look like when we get the proposals. Anyone else have a question or any comment on the staff report?
I don't have any questions or comments. I thought this was a very well done staff report and package, so I appreciate all your hard work. I just have one small recommendation that we can discuss later.
Okay. Any comment, Kurt?
No.
Okay. At this time, we'll open it up for public comment on item 9.3. Going once. Okay. We'll close the public comment portion and bring it back to the commission. So you had something.
Yes, and this is very minor, and I recognize that it's not really a change, but looking at attachment B, which is the proposed zoning ordinance amendments, I noticed that we added the development standard minimum parcel area to sections 2 and later, and I would just recommend adding it to section 1 as well so that people don't have to hop all over the place to find their information.
We can do that before it goes to council.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Any further comments or questions? All right. Can we get a motion to take action?
I will move to forward a recommendation of approval with modifications to the city council by adding a section D, or subsection D regarding development standards and minimum parcel area to section 1 of the proposed zoning ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right. Please call the vote.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Stratton,
Aye.
Chair Keeney.
Aye, 3-0. All right, thank you very much. That will be moved on to the city council for their consideration. We will move now to 9.4, zoning ordinance amendment 2604, to amend Title 10, again, to establish regulations and permitted uses for low-barrier navigation centers in compliance with State Law AB 101. Are you ready, Ms. Kendrick?
I am. Thank you,
Very
Chair.
busy tonight.
Thank you, Chair Keeney and Commissioners. Item 9.4 is a public hearing for the zoning ordinance amendment ZOA 26-04, implementing housing element program B4 related to low barrier navigation centers in compliance with AB 101. Tonight, staff is requesting that the Planning Commission hold a public hearing, receive testimony, and consider forwarding a recommendation to the City Council. This amendment fulfills Program B4 of the city's 2021 through 2029 housing element, which requires the city to update its zoning ordinance to comply with Government Code Section 65660 and 65668. These state laws mandate that low-barrier navigation centers, also known as LBNCs, be treated as a use by right in mixed-use and non-residential zones that allow multifamily housing. This program was required to be completed in 2023, and as noted in the staff report, the city received a HCD letter of inquiry in December of 2025 requesting a status on Program B4. Completing this amendment is necessary to maintain the city's certification and avoid potential consequences such as loss of funding eligibility or application of the builder's remedy. Low barrier navigation centers are housing first, service-enriched shelters designed to reduce barriers to entry. State law requires that they allow partners to remain together, storage of personal belongings, pets, and privacy through partitions or private rooms. Under Government Code Section 65662, these facilities must be approved ministerially, meaning no discretionary review or public hearing when they meet all the objective standards. The proposed ordinance accomplishes this by adding a definition of low barrier navigation centers to Section 10-1-4, adding a new Section 10-4-21, establishing objective standards including participation in the county's coordinated entry system, participation in the HMIS, a service plan with case management, a 30-day completeness review and 60-day approval time, updating 4 zoning districts, the commercial business district, commercial, highway commercial, and business professional to list LBNCs as a permitted use subject to these standards. These changes ensure consistency with the state law and the housing element. This ordinance is statutorily exempt from CEQA under Government Code Section 65661B, which explicitly exempts actions taken to approve low-barrier navigation centers. It is also exempt as a ministerial action under CEQA Guidelines Section 15268. A legal notice for this hearing was published in the Mountain Democrat on April 29, 2026, meeting the 20-day noticing requirement for zoning ordinance amendments. At the time of preparation of the staff report, no public comment had been received. So at this time, staff recommends the Planning Commission conduct the public hearing, receive public input, and forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council to adopt an ordinance amending Title 10. This action maintains compliance with state housing mandates and supports the city's certified housing element. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Again, thanks for your hard work bringing us into compliance and conformance. My only question, and you may not be able to answer this, who builds these centers? Okay, it's maybe a private or a nonprofit with a grant comes forward.
That's what I would assume. Typically with, a lower income, it's a lot of state or federal funding. I know that there's some concerns with the funding potentially not being as available as it was previously.
Okay. I don't have any questions. Either of you?
Just to wrap my head around the whole concept, is there any point where public comment can be received, or is it just that no? Okay.
No. It's similar to affordable housing projects. Like we have one under construction and one completed. Those are ministerial. It doesn't allow for public comment. It's not subject to CEQA.
There are the objective design standards, though.
Right, they still have to meet certain requirements, but there's a lot of concessions, especially regarding parking and processing.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Okay. We'll open this up for public comment. Okay, shake of the head. We'll close the public comment, bring it back. Can I get a motion for action?
I'll second your motion.
You don't even know what I'm going to say yet.
I'm agreeable.
It's a little bit low energy.
All right. I will move to forward a recommendation of approval to City Council.
Second.
Good. We have a motion and a second. Please call the vote.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Stratton,
Aye.
Chair Keeney.
Aye. So 3-0 to move that up to City Council. Now we will move on to 10 continued items. And under 10, we have the conditional use permit CUP 2601 and variances 2601 and 2602 regarding the Sequoia Mansion at 643 B Street. And I'll turn it back over to you, Ms. Kendrick, for the staff report.
Thank you, Chair Keeney and Commissioners. I also want to thank the applicants for waiting so patiently. I am presenting item 10.1, which is the conditional use permit and 2 variances located at 643 B Street. The applicant is Wedgwood Weddings and Events, and they request a conditional use permit to formalize the existing use of the Sequoia Mansion as an event venue, a variance to legalize an existing accessory shed and allow its encroachment into the front yard setback, and a variance to approve a parking reduction due to historic lot constraints and topography. I'd like to add that no new construction or major exterior alterations to this historic mansion are proposed. Just a little bit of background. This Sequoia Mansion, also known as the B. Bennett House, is one of Placerville's oldest structures. Built in 1853 and expanded in 1889, it is operated as a restaurant, meeting facility, and event venue for decades. Key prior approvals include conditional use permit 01-01 that allowed the restaurant with meeting rooms. In 2022, they amended that conditional use permit to authorize the use of off-site parking within 300 feet due to the site's inability to meet parking requirements on-site. The site never provided full on-site parking due to the steep topography and limited buildable area. The city approved a hybrid model consisting of approximately 20 to 22 on-site spaces and off-site parking agreements within 300 feet. This has been the operational model for more than 20 years. The current application does not expand the use. It formalizes the longstanding event venue operations and updates the off-site parking agreements. Importantly, the venue has not hosted an event for 200 or more persons, and the applicant's operations have remained well below the historic maximum occupancy referenced in earlier approvals. The 0.78 acre site is in the historic hillside lot with significant physical limitations. The building occupies nearly all buildable area. Steep slopes limit expansion of paved areas without major grading and retaining walls. Adjacent residential zoning imposes additional setbacks and buffering requirements, and surrounding development restricts opportunities for on-site parking expansion. These conditions meet the zoning ordinance criteria for a variance with special circumstances applicable to the property that prevent full compliance with parking and setback standards. The site currently contains 20 marked on-site spaces consistent with the historic approvals and physical constraints. The applicant has executed 2 formal agreements providing 30 off-site spaces, one with the New Wine Christian Fellowship located at 680 B Street for 15 spaces, and the second with Tempo El Messias at 669 B Street for an additional 15 spaces. Both of those properties are located within a 300-foot distance, and they are consistent with the 2002 approvals that provide for 20 on-site spaces, 30 off-site, and 50 total. So typically, when you have use that is assembly, it's typically 1 space per four people. So they are complying with that requirement. And again, this is consistent with the historic operational model and provides adequate parking for the venue. Staff did receive 2 letters from adjacent neighbors. The first letter was from Peggy and Ron Cecchetini, who are supportive of the project and said they enjoy hearing the music on the weekends. So they're very happy neighbors, but they requested marked employee parking in the rear to maintain fire access and support the shed with a sewer line survey if made permanent. They do believe there's a sewer line that runs under that. And the second letter was from Dave Musker, requesting limiting overnight use of the kitchen exhaust fan and scheduling garbage pickup after 7 a.m. Both concerns are addressed in the draft conditions of approval. Conditions of approval, key points. The venue has not hosted events of 200 or more persons, and operations remain below historic occupancy levels. On and off-site parking must be used prior to any use of public streets. Approximately 5 marked employee spaces must be provided in the rear area. The kitchen exhaust fan may not operate overnight, and garbage collection should occur after 7 a.m. However, the applicant did reach out to El Dorado Disposal, and because of the schools in the area, they try to avoid the school traffic. So I'm not sure that can be met. And again, the shed may remain, but if it's converted to permanent, a sewer line study is required. So at this time, staff recommends approval based on a CEQA exemption under 15061B3 and 15301. The project is consistent with the general plan with the business park designation and historic preservation goals. It is consistent with our zoning with CUP requirements for public assembly uses. For the variance findings, special circumstances exist due to size, shape, topography, and surroundings, and that no special privilege is granted, and there is no injury to public health, safety, or welfare. So staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve conditional use permit 2601, variance 2601, and variance 2602, subject to the draft conditions of approval, and direct staff to prepare a notice of exemption. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and we do have the applicant in the audience.
Thank you very much. Do either of you have questions on the staff report? Go ahead, Kurt.
Yes, it wasn't clear to me about the pickup of the garbage. The El Dorado Disposal is saying that they have an issue about schools picking up kids in the morning, that the traffic interferes. How does that work? They come out in the back behind the property, correct?
Yes, I believe so. But my understanding is that when they're creating the route, they are trying to avoid school traffic. But the applicants did talk with El Dorado Disposal today, so they may have more information regarding that.
Okay, thank you.
I have some questions. I want to make sure that we are clear on the parking. We're proposing an occupancy of 250 persons, correct?
That was part of the amendment in 2002. So they were granted the occupancy at 250 back then.
Okay, 250, and that's, is that carried through in our conditions of approval? Let's see. Oh, we see, maximum occupancy shall not exceed 250. Yes, operational conditions, I see that now. So based on our parking standards, they would be required to provide 63 spaces. And we've seen, apparently now they have 24 on-site and 30 off-site at the two churches. And so that's
20 on-site and
20
then
on-site.
15 for the two different churches that are located less.
15 at each.
Yes.
So for a total, so that's only 50 parking spaces, and normally, under our standards, we would be requiring 63.
Correct.
Okay.
However, this use has been, I mean, this site was approved back in 2001 and 2002 with the same standards that are being proposed today, and they have been operating for about 2 decades. There without, staff has not received any complaints, and like I said, the neighbors seem to generally like the use. You know, they had their few concerns, but they were both supportive of the project.
Well, as we know, just because we don't receive complaints doesn't mean there aren't problems with traffic and pedestrians and so on, but that's good to know that they have been able to operate on that. So there is street parking available on B Street. I think my concern about that is if, depending on the timing of the events, you just don't want to impact your neighbors. You know, if we are not requiring them to provide all 63 spaces that we normally would, what's our justification for that?
Well, that's one of the variances that they submitted. Is for a reduction in parking.
Right. So as I look at our findings for that variance, I'm not. It's not to say that we can't go forward, but I do have some concerns about the findings for that for the variance on the parking. And just wanted to state for the record, Ms. Kendrick and I exchanged some email earlier today, and you also provided hard copies of the parking agreement, that is attachment F for this item. Is there any change that, or is this just, why was a hard copy provided to us tonight of the parking agreement for the two churches, New Wine and Templo?
English conversion. So staff provided that because the original agreement was in Spanish, and so that's just the English translation. We also did pass out a revised site plan from the applicant prepared this evening that shows their parking and then the New Wine parking, so that way, and the Tempo El Mesias.
Okay, and in your staff report, We prefer, we want them to use their off-site parking as a priority. We use that first, right? So how do we make sure that they're complying with that, as opposed to just allowing people to, park on the street and not use that remote parking first?
That would be an operational issue, so I will let the applicant speak to that.
Okay. And regarding that sewer line, did city engineering did they take a look at it? Do they have any knowledge of this potential problem?
They did not look at this.
Okay, but we have a condition that should they want to make that structure permanent, then there's a full analysis, and we'll know exactly where that sewer line is.
Correct.
Okay, good. So that protects the city, and hopefully they don't have any problem at all with this, because that is a terrible mess. Okay, those are all my questions on the staff report. So I'm going to open it up for public comment on any other questions. Okay, open it up for public comment. Oh, that's what they're here for. Welcome. If you would, please state your name for the record. Thank you for coming down to talk to us.
My name is Jordan Worth. I am the general manager of Sequoia Mansion with Wedgwood Weddings.
Doreen Edwards.
Worth, W-E-R-T-H, Worth.
Thank you for coming down.
There was just a couple questions that I thought I might be able to help answer.
Okay, and also this is your opportunity to present the proposal to us if you would care to do so.
So there was a question about the trash pickup. After our last meeting that we had, I called the waste management company, and they said that they do our pickups. Usually it's before 7 a.m. because we're near a school, and they said that they try and target those businesses first to try and avoid any traffic and overlap with the schools. They did make a note on our account and dispatchers to let them know that we did make a formal request to adjust that. Whether that's been implemented, I could follow up on. I'm just generally not at the property that early in the morning, so I'm not totally sure. But that has been addressed on our end. There was also a question about the shed and whether we decide to make it permanent. Currently, it sits on some cinder blocks to keep it level, so it is not a permanent structure. It can be moved. We don't intend to adjust that in any way, so if there were to be an emergency or an issue, I'm not an engineer, but it's my understanding that we could just forklift it up and move it, but we don't intend to do much more than where it's currently at. So.
But you did read the conditions of approval that number 14, should you change your mind,
Right.
you would have to
Right.
have that surveyed. Okay, you're well aware of that obligation.
Yeah. Was there other questions?
The parking.
Yeah.
So you have 24 sites, parking spaces on your site.
Yeah, about 20 plus the 2 agreements that we have with the church. You mentioned the street parking, so that's pretty convenient for our guests. So a lot of times we do have communication of like, hey, when we have the bigger guest counts and we need to use that, we tell them that it's available, but a lot of times guests make their own decision and park closer to the property. I think in terms of how we communicate the off-site parking to our couples, we were talking internally about providing some sort of digital maps and instructions, both on where it's located, hours of operation, and then also like general safety of where it is in proximity to the property was our last discussion.
My concern about the parking, and especially the parking at the new Wine Christian Fellowship, since it is across the street, and B Street is it's not Highway 49, but it is a major street through that neighborhood. Have you discussed internally safety procedures that you could implement to make it, make it clear that people can use that parking, and then make crossings clear or assist people? What do you think you could reasonably do? I just am concerned about pedestrian safety.
Yeah, like escorting guests across the street or directing them across.
And not so much with the, let's see, Templo El Messias.
Yeah, that's on the same.
Since it's on the same side, and there is a sidewalk all the way up to your facility. So that's reasonably safe. That might actually be your top priority for parking,
For sure.
and then across the street. So what do you think?
Yeah.
What could you do to make it safe for pedestrians? That's my concern. People are dressed up, they're in a hurry, they're late for the ceremony. You've got a wedding. So I'm trying to think worst case scenario. We can't prevent everything, but can we put something in place that would make it easier for those people?
Definitely, I think we could keep connecting with Carol, but I think the immediate thought was if needed, we could provide maybe like a server or a captain of the event to be down there and assist guests as needed and direct them where to.
I think that would be great, especially for that one remote lot.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it. Not all your events are going to be at the maximum.
Generally not. We're fairly low capacity at our venue, so we very rarely hit close to even 200.
And what happens on, suppose they're having services in either or both of those churches, then do you not schedule? How does that work?
Yeah, we haven't crossed that bridge.
Okay,
We haven't been
that
there.
hasn't come up yet.
Generally, a 200-person morning on a Sunday morning is not the most popular desired date, so we don't generally run into that. But
You're typically hosting the reception, I guess.
yeah, usually at night.
I'm sure you have ceremonies, but for the most part, it's the
Dinner.
reception. Okay. So hopefully that won't become but you're aware of it.
We would be aware of it. If we had a couple that came to us and they were looking for that, we would probably get in touch with the churches first to see their availability before we booked that event, if it came to it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Kirk, do you have a?
Yeah, I guess my question's back to the parking. It's the letter of Dave Musker when he describes this dilemma of the pickup coming early in the morning. And one of the paragraphs states that there's an apartment complex behind you, and they come around El Dorado Disposal and pick up trash between 9 and 10, which would be after kids have been transported up that street.
Yeah.
So what's the problem if they're on Weaver Street right behind you, where your dumpster is? Why can't they pick up yours at that same time frame?
I'm not sure if it's a difference in the trucks because of the difference in the bins that they're picking up because of a commercial building versus residential. I'm not totally sure. They didn't tell me that. I just made the request.
I mean, an apartment complex would have a bigger dumpster than a house, presumably, and yours would be a bigger dumpster than most houses. I'm just making a wild guess that they're about the same size. I'm puzzled why El Dorado Disposal can't pick up the trash early in the morning where it wouldn't,
Well, I'll share with you. I called over to El Dorado Disposal myself. I didn't know that you were going to make the phone call, and I didn't get into it in depth like a customer would. But essentially, and I think we've all been subject to this, customers of El Dorado Disposal, they set their schedule. And, we can make requests,
Yeah.
but we can't require when they do their pickups.
We just made a schedule for them called rates last week, and you might want to ask the acting mayor for some assistance because they get money from us by virtue of us setting rates for them. So they should accommodate the public because that's what they're there to serve.
But
That's
to
just a
the
suggestion.
the operational conditions, given what you found out and what I've learned and what we know about operations, there is a condition. I'm not sure that we should try to impose that on this conditional use permit, which is discussing when the garbage would be picked up, because it's really not a thing that the customer can control. We can make requests, but yeah, the company, they're an independent company, and they have to do things efficiently, and affordably. So anyway, that's my thought on that, the garbage. And I'm sympathetic to the neighbor who, did make the comment about the noise, but it's really not something that we can do. We can request, as I said, but I'm not sure it's under our control.
I agree with what you're saying, and I don't live back there or own any property, but I have a friend that lived in those apartments. It's like a very small, probably 4-unit apartment complex, and just peeking on Google Maps, they have the regular household bins, not like dumpsters that you might see in a regular apartment complex. So it could be like what you were saying.
Translation, we don't know.
Well, a translation, or we can't control it, so, okay. Any other questions for our applicant? We can, if things arise, since we don't have a lot of people here tonight, we can always have you come back up if there's something you want to add, but I think we can let you sit down unless there's anything else you want to tell us at this time.
I don't think so.
I have a quick question, I'm sorry. I can't find it in all the attachments, but I swear I read it when I was looking over this yesterday. There was mention of parking spots behind the building that are used for staff,
For employees.
for employees. Is that like on the property or along the driveway of the apartment complex?
It's within the property.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Would you like to add anything? Any other public comment on the item 10.1? Okay, we'll close that public comment portion right now and bring it back to the commission for further discussion. So as I said, I'm very concerned about the parking. And first off, going back to the staff report, when we this is a variance and a conditional use permit. These run with the land, right? The variance and the CUP run with the land. So once we approve these, it's difficult to change them unless there special circumstance arise. So to my thinking, the variance, our language, we need to justify our findings. Yes, the site is developed, the surrounding area is developed. There's no other opportunity really to develop more parking, and the topography is a bit of a challenge. So all those things are true, but we're also allowing this entity to fall short by, well, let me make sure I have my math correct. It's either 9 or 13 spaces. There's 20 on-site and 30 off-site, so 13 spaces short. And yes, it can be accommodated on the street, but to me, the findings for this variance aren't robust enough. That's a lot. 13 spaces are a lot if they were at capacity. Staff, had you thought about, obviously you didn't, or it didn't occur to you didn't think it was necessary for the findings, just the special circumstances. Well, how do the rest of you feel about that?
What was the previous parking arrangement with the churches? Was it the same number of spots?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, just want to make sure. I'm honestly not too concerned about it because when you think of doing primarily weddings, people are traveling in larger groups and you don't necessarily have as many like single person in a single car. So if it hasn't been an issue in the past and they're willing to renew those parking arrangements, I don't see a small change.
I would
causing
also
issues.
like to add that the variance does run with the land, but if the use ceases, that variance is forfeited. So If a new use came in, they would not be, that variance wouldn't be available to them. They would have to apply for their own variance and get that approved.
It is attached to the CUP.
It is attached to the CUP. So like I said, if the use ceased to exist, that variance would go away with it.
The other thing to do would be to reduce the maximum occupancy somewhat. They are asking for 250. If it was limited to 200.
Can we do that?
Would be less, 50. So we would be right on. Oh, wow. So that would be one way, it would be to limit the capacity, to state as such. I mean, it's operated as a restaurant, an event center in the past, and so that the neighborhood has always been able to accommodate the cars. But as I said earlier, just because we don't receive a complaint doesn't mean that people aren't frustrated or put out. For instance, say there's a wedding going on, someone wants to visit the cemetery, they can't get street parking. That's an imposition on them. They might not bother to say anything. So I'm trying to avoid those kinds of conflicts.
I guess
What do you
the
think?
concerns I had is no one has made any complaints about the parking from the community. The hours of churches are different than a wedding venue. The wedding venue, we were told the testimony is, in the afternoons or towards the evening, so there's no conflict. So I don't know that we need to search for a problem that hasn't been described to us. The parking that you're proposing is adequate for the needs that are suggested.
And I'd like to point out that the two comment letters we received were supportive of the use, just, the couple concerns that they had.
I appreciate that there hasn't been a complaint, and thank goodness we haven't had a conflict. But to be fair to other applicants that come to the city, if they said, we want 250 people, the city would say, you have to provide 63 parking spots. In this case, we are giving them are we giving them a special privilege, or not? We're not supposed to. I think that our findings should describe how we aren't giving them a special privilege. Perhaps just a line that says that they are providing on-site the 20, off-site 30 more, and then additional parking can be accommodated on the streets. I don't want this to come back to haunt us in the future when someone says, well, you did grant them a special privilege of 13 spaces. It's not just the complaint-driven side of it. So that's my concern, is that we treat everyone fairly and treat everyone the same. But I appreciate that, the two of you don't feel like this rises to that level.
But just to clarify, this special modification regarding the parking and the occupancy has been in place since 2002. So the city did this hybrid model, so the site has been operating with a maximum 250 occupancy with the parking that they had, which was approved, over 20 years ago. So like I said, there is kind of a precedent set with that as well.
Okay. We'll keep that in mind for the next application.
I'm just looking through right now, but you might be able to answer more quickly. Is there any language about if you receive a certain number of complaints, the CUP could be, or the variance could be revoked?
So I don't know if we can revoke the variance, but we can revoke the conditional use permit. There is not a condition of approval in there that states, after a certain amount of complaints. Revocation is a very serious issue, and I think that's one that we'll try to avoid. Trying to shut down a business. But it is an option, and it is in the code that we can revoke them. I can add a condition in with the language from the code if that provides a comfort level to the commission.
I don't necessarily mean literal revocation, just an opportunity to amend the agreement or relook at it if there's any issue.
Well, I have lived in this town a long time, and I grew up in a large portion of my life in the early years over on Canal Street, right near Simus Way. I would go by this place almost daily to go to school. I've been to many events in that area. I've been to that cemetery as I was just before I arrived here. I will be there again Saturday. I've been to that venue many times, when it was a restaurant, when it was an Elks Lodge, etc. I've never heard of a parking problem for all the reasons I described before. The hours are not the same. I'm not sure that we need to anticipate and solve problems that are not before us. This is a business. We want to encourage businesses to do their work. And I wouldn't want to add any extra requirements. If there does become a problem in the future, it can be addressed by existing laws, ordinances related to noise, for example. But what's unusual about what the two letters say is they like this neighbor. They even like the fragrance from the kitchen. They even enjoy the noise because the sounds of a wedding are pleasant. That's unusual. Usually people are talking about noise. So I just don't want us to search for a problem when it's not present. If it does come up sometime, we've got a police chief, we've got all kinds of regulations around for noise. And I just don't want to try to look for a solution when there isn't a problem.
Well, don't forget that another element, it's not looking for a problem and trying to solve a problem we haven't had, but we have parking standards. Our ordinance says so many spaces per four spaces, no, one spot for four people. We have to treat everyone equally. And so that's really what I think I'm concerned about is I don't want to establish a precedent so that the next applicant says, well, over on B Street, you didn't make them provide the parking. And so then in another instance, we have a history of doing this. And I just want to make sure that our findings are robust enough in this case so that the next applicant that comes before the Planning Commission comes to the city. It's clear why, in that case, perhaps there's strict adherence to the 1 for 4 that we have in our ordinance.
The concern about consistency and having standards that people can expect and rely on is important. And I think that if someone came in before us in the future and raised this issue of consistency, I'd point out that it's apples and kumquats, that in this instance, we've got an unusually...
Well, that's why we have findings, and that's
why
exactly why I think we need to make
As I
the
was
findings a
about to
bit
say.
more robust.
As I was about to say.
So do you have a suggestion, perhaps, a modification to the findings that would,
No,
again,
I think the
put us in a
250
stronger spot at this time?
The 250 is certainly appropriate. And what's unusual too, as I would point out to anyone in the future who wants to consider consistency, is that what makes this property unusual is that you have a large amount of street parking that is, for example, able to accommodate Save the Graves every October and a few other events like that. So that makes this property different because of the adjoining parking areas.
Then perhaps just a modification in under variance 2601. 2601 is the parking. It says no special privilege. Parking is adequately provided by adjacent properties the applicant has parking agreements with, and the existence of street parking. Maybe we just need to add that because then we are on record of having acknowledged that. So then we haven't set a precedent that comes back to haunt us.
I wouldn't mind the extra language, and I do think that the diagrams illustrate what you've just described.
So I think it's important to put it in writing on the record. So I would be, because, I appreciate, I've been to those events and I appreciate your insight that we haven't had a problem. But it's this establishing a precedent. So under variance 2601, perhaps we could say that. Back to the conditions. I asked the applicant about some safety. How do the two of you feel about adding a line about under operational conditions that perhaps they have an assistant at the remote parking to direct people? Do you think that's necessary?
I'm not too concerned about it for the reasons that folks have mentioned tonight, that it's not, the events aren't happening at a time when many cars are going down that road. I believe it said there was sidewalks on one side of the street. So it should be okay.
So you don't see a need to provide any more safety? Then how about you, Mr. Smith?
We'll stand with the comments I made.
Do you think, one thing that I noted was with these reciprocal parking agreements, should those properties change hands, should we add a note that the permittee needs to contact the city of Placerville if those those properties, the churches, change hands, that they need to, notify the city so the city knows that they're working on a reciprocal parking agreement?
I move for the adoption of the staff report and recommendations from the staff. It's my motion.
So are you making a motion?
Yes,
And your motion is?
for the approval of the staff report and the recommendations made by the staff for this project.
I would agree with the amendments mentioned earlier about this special use or special circumstances.
I'm sorry.
You mentioned adding language to the variance about the not setting the standard, that we would approve these sorts of things in the future.
Okay, I think that we have a motion to approve the conditional use permit and the variances subject to the conditions of approval. And then I think Mr. Smith intends to have us direct staff to prepare a notice of exemption for the applicant to file with the El Dorado County Clerk Recorder's Office. That's option one at the end of the staff report. Is that your motion?
Yes.
Kurt? Can I get a second? And then we can discuss further.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Now, I want to be sure that I understand your concern. This was on the operational?
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up the document. There's lots of attachments on this one. But you had mentioned adding language where it had mentioned special circumstances, like there's adequate, it says that there's adequate parking, but we don't want to make that the standard for future applications. So you had mentioned adding language to that?
That's on page 6 of the staff report. It's number 2, no special privilege. And so the discussion was the variance will not grant special privileges as parking is adequately provided by adjacent properties that the applicant has parking agreements with, and street parking.
Ample street parking, perhaps? Okay,
Ample street.
so that would be up in the staff report then. And then back to the operational. I would like us to strike under the conditions of approval. Under specific improvement and mitigation conditions, this would be, it looks like it's the last page. Number 15 is the garbage collection. It says garbage collection for commercial dumpsters shall be scheduled after 7 a.m. whenever feasible. That's not a condition that we can enforce. We've had this discussion. The permittee is aware. A subsequent permittee, this runs with the land, they probably would become aware of the any complaints. I don't want to put the city in the position of having, to try to make them comply with this condition. And therefore, I would like us to remove that. How do you feel about removing number 16?
I'm fine with that.
Kirk? This is your motion. Do you approve the two amendments? One from Alyssa regarding the findings and removing number 16?
That's fine.
So you approve though, and then, so then you second the amended?
Yes.
Yes.
I can tell that fatigue is setting in, but is there any more discussion? All right, please call the vote.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Stratton,
Aye.
Chair Keeney.
Aye. All right, so that passes 3-0. Thank you very much. Again, this is subject to a 10-day appeal to the city council, but it looks like you're getting things in order, really. Your operation is already underway. Thank you so much for coming down and spending time answering our questions. And that takes care of our continued items. We'll move on. We have no new business. And we'll go on to number 12, which is matters from commissioners and staff. 12.1 is the staff report. Do you have any staff reports for us, Ms. Kendra?
I do have some updates, so not sure if all of you are aware, but Police Chief Joe Wren is now the interim city manager, so you might see him a little bit more frequently than you did. And I just wanted to provide you with an update for the June 16th meeting. So I will be bringing forward the last of the A3 housing element properties with the housing opportunity overlay. I've been receiving a lot of comments on that, so it's I would expect a crowd. We'll have the continued Kirschner general plan amendment and zone change. We just received a 6-month extension request for the Mackinac Hotel. 6 months is all they have remaining, so we'll be bringing that forward. And it looks like we'll be getting a 1-year extension of time for a site plan review 9009, and that is the property that is located where the bean barn is. So it's that structure that's fronting onto the street on Placerville Drive. And
I'm sorry,
then
which one?
it's the property where the bean barn is.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so their
Okay.
site plan review, it only has an 18-month life, and so they have not advanced it enough to gain use and reliance with their application. So they reached out today, and they're going to be applying for a 1-year extension.
Okay.
And then we will be getting an appeal tomorrow of a determination that I made regarding Sotheby's on Main Street. They don't feel that they are a formula business, so they are appealing that decision, and that will be coming forward to you at the June 16th meeting as well. The June 2nd, of course, is canceled due to the election, and I think that is all I have to update you on at this point. Oh, actually, I have another update. Our building official is currently out, so right now we have contract building services, so we only have inspections on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So if you hear any complaints out in the community, you can send them my way, but we are only doing inspections on Tuesday and Wednesdays right now.
Okay. All right. And I was remiss. I didn't welcome you, Mr. Chief Wren. got underway. I apologize. We don't often have new people here visiting us, but you're very well known. But we're glad to have you here and look forward to seeing you again in the future. Any matters from the commissioners?
Yeah, I may have inadvertently said, demoted you by saying assistant mayor. I guess one item I'd mention is that Saturday, if you want to go to B Street, right across the street at the cemetery, is Gold Star Families. It's the El Dorado County Historical Society and a veterans group have done a comprehensive examination of many of those who have their. Anyway, they've done exceptional work, and you'll find it helpful.
All right.
And plenty of parking across the street.
Any other matters from commissioners?
I don't know if this is on purpose or not, but I did want to just note that I have appreciated how recently we've discussed some items at multiple meetings, and it kind of gives us time to actually think through all these deeper questions, get answers from the applicants, and make more thoughtful decisions. So if we have opportunities in the future, I don't know if it's normal to do that, but I appreciate it.
You mean reaching out in advance, or?
Yeah, or when we've had applicants here to discuss their proposals prior to us voting on it, knowing that maybe not everything has lined up, but they want information on how to proceed.
I mean, we really can't discuss an item that hasn't been advertised, so we do have a preliminary plan review, and so in my past life, I utilize those as a first blush with the Planning Commission because when you get to a public hearing, you're in the 11th hour.
Right.
And then, having a developer or somebody trying to do a project and getting all these kind of changes, it's challenging and frustrating. And so sometimes, like I said, I would do a first blush and bring the concept forward to Planning Commission so that the applicant could receive feedback and then design the project based around the feedback they receive, at that public hearing. So, I mean, if that's something that you'd like me to explore, I'm happy to do that. Again, I would rather catch things early than wait till they get to a public hearing and find out we have some, major design issues.
So would it be agendized and we would take public comment as well? It wouldn't be just like a concept, but it wouldn't be, we wouldn't take action on it.
No, it's
But we could comment and the public could comment on the project at that initial phase.
right. And that wouldn't be an advertised project. A preliminary review is just a preliminary review. There's no action, but it would be agendized so that you could discuss it. But like I said, it's been very successful in my past life. But I've been thinking about that. I just finished up a plan review today, and it might have done well to get feedback from the Planning Commission. It was a challenging one.
Would be very helpful, especially for ones that are, a little more complex or a more constrained lot. For instance, we haven't had a lot of really big projects come forward, but there are weird circumstances, so that might be helpful. If you can work it into the agenda in your schedule.
Well, it would be based on if I think that there's concerns or that the Planning Commission would have concerns, then I would recommend that to the applicant, because there is a fee associated with that.
Okay. Anything else?
A motion to adjourn.
Nothing else from staff?
I did want to point out that the City Council at their strategic planning meeting had made a comment that they would like the Planning Commission to provide them with an update on the historic design guidelines. And the previous city manager asked me to remove the item from the agenda until that report is done. So I don't know if you've noticed that the historic design guidelines has not been agendized. But that's something that the Planning Commission will need to work on. You could go watch the strategic planning meeting and hear the comments yourself if you'd like.
And how could we fulfill that obligation? Would we put it on the agenda for discussion among the commission, and how do we craft that
Yeah,
update?
so we would have to add it on there. I would preface it with that the council is looking for an update. So I think, one meeting for the commission to discuss the status and what you'd like to relay to the city council at this time.
And then would staff write the summary, or would one of the commissioners, would I be, as chair, be responsible for writing that summary?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's put that off till December. Yeah. No, and did they give a time frame sooner rather than later?
They didn't give a time frame, but the mention is that they wanted an update before you continued working on it further.
Okay. We have a full agenda for the next meeting, the 16th, right? So perhaps the subsequent meeting?
We're trying to determine if maybe a special meeting might be appropriate for that item, or doing a workshop, potentially maybe with the city council.
It really depends on how far along the planning commission is with that current project. If it's something that is going to be a robust discussion and you really need to take an in-depth look, it may be better suited for a special meeting or a workshop to put it together in a format that you're comfortable with presenting to the city council on what the status of that currently is.
Okay.
Ms. Kendrick, we had someone earlier tell us about a problem. They acquire a property in a historic district and they didn't know it. So one of the suggestions can be that we have a requirement that with the recorder of deeds, that properties in those districts be informed when they make the purchase that they are an historic district, and give reference to those specific things. So that's one of the things that could be done. We have, that was mentioned a number of times, we have people come in here and they want to know about the history of the building. And
Well, that could be part of what we discuss in our workshop and pass on to city council.
Right.
Yeah, we don't want to get too much into the meat
Right.
and potatoes of it right here, right now, because it's not an agendized item. It's just something for you guys to be aware of, that the council is seeking this update, and, the format that you choose to really put this together is at your discretion. But it kind of sounds like it's going to take a pretty robust discussion, so a special meeting where you talk about the items that was mentioned by Mr. Smith, and you start to formulate that and move forward with it.
Okay.
What I can do is send out an email. I can find out when we have some availability for this room and send out some dates to the commission, and you guys can let me know when you're available, and we can try to get that scheduled.
Okay. Very good. We have a motion to adjourn. Oh, anything else?
I just had one quick comment. I noticed if you're looking at the city's website for the meeting materials, there seems to be some sort of filtering issue. So I don't know if that's something we could bring up with our IT staff, if they're not already aware. I wasn't able, if you just Google it and try to find the meeting materials, they're not showing up. It's only showing the previous May meeting. But when I went via the link that was sent to the commissioners, it showed up.
That's great feedback. If you could send me an email directly, the IT person is out of the administrative office, and I'll coordinate with him your concerns and see if we can't get that addressed immediately.
Perfect, thank you.
Anything else? We have a
should I
motion?
revise my motion and call it up again to adjourn, please?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.